Hello everybody, this is Josh Placer from GameWisdom.com. If you're watching this right now, it means we are getting ready for our live play of Offworld Trading Company. If you're on Twitch, please hold out for another like 3-4 minutes. If you're watching this recorded on YouTube, you can just fast forward until you see the actual game footage start, and that will be the actual play. Anyway, I'm going to mute myself while we finish getting ready. Talk to you in a few minutes. Hello everybody, this is Josh Placer from GameWisdom.com. Welcome to a special play of Offworld Trading Company. Today I am joined by Soren Johnson, owner and lead designer of Mohawk Games, as well as the man behind the game, and he's going to join us.
Oops, sorry. Technical difficulties already.
It's par for the course.
Yeah. All right.
Well, and he is joining me today to talk about the game while we go over a skirmish match. So, Soren, it's great to have you on today. Thanks for joining.
Thanks for having me, Josh. It's good to be here.
All right, while we're waiting for people to hopefully join, or for those of people watching this recorded on YouTube, for anyone who doesn't know what Offworld Trading Company is, could you give us sort of like the elevator pitch of the game?
Sure. So Offworld Trading Company is an economic RTS. And what that means, because people often sort of ask, well, what, that still doesn't tell me what it is. It's kind of like, imagine an RTS, but you take out the combat and you instead focus on just the macro part of the game, just basically the resource management. And so obviously that means that we're going to have a much more complicated resource model than you'll see in most RTS games, which have two, three, maybe sometimes four resources. In our game, we have 13 resources.
Hmm.
And so it it also, it also in many ways feels a bit like a board game in that it's about sort of like grabbing certain resources and making this sort of economic engine run, and you're ultimately in the game trying to make money, but it is still an RTS in the sense that it fits that format very well, in that you can play with like up to 8 people. Games last about 30 minutes. They're real time. They're very competitive. Really great to play over like a lunch session, that type of a thing.
Yeah, and it's definitely a different feel compared to other real-time strategy games, especially other real-time strategy games in the current market. I
Mm.
know from reading like the Almanac DLC and some of the interviews you gave, you were heavily inspired by the classic strategy game Mule that came
Hmm.
out. Was that like in the mid '80s, I think?
Yeah, it was 83, I think.
Okay. So I think for today, I definitely have a lot of questions regarding the design, some of the choices you came up with during creating Offworld, but I think to get things going, we will start a match up, and that way we can have the game directly on and reference while we are
Sure.
talking.
Sounds good.
So, now obviously there's different ways of playing Offworld. We have the campaign mode, which is more of a meta game with a lot more of being able to choose what buildings you have, what bonuses, and then you have the skirmish mode. And I think we're going to do skirmish. That way we can have the AI, and you'll basically be my wingman as we
Sure.
try to get through this. Now, I've been able to play the game reasonably on employee difficulty level, but I
Right.
know, as with any strategy game, we have a lot of different difficulty settings. I guess, in your opinion, Soren, for players like starting out or as they're learning the game, how should they like approach what difficulty level they should, I guess, begin their off-world train company education?
I think we default them on assistant when they jump into skirmish, and that's just to make sure that they don't feel uncomfortable when the game begins. I think the ones below that, below assistant, like those are almost kind of much more like almost sort of tutorial levels,
Hmm.
where you really get like enormous bonuses.
Yeah.
Um, and then manager is really like where you want to get to. Like I'd really recommend everyone keep playing Offworld until they can at least beat it at manager, because
Okay.
that's the level where the AI is playing the same as you are. That's the
Hmm.
default level for multiplayer.
Okay.
And the levels above that are, that's the typical thing I've seen from working on the Civ series, which is it seems
Hmm.
like you can never add enough difficulty levels. Like there's always people who, like, no matter how hard you make the game, they always feel like it's
Hmm.
still fairly easy. So I've
Hmm.
always been pretty generous with having lots of difficulty levels. But it also works well for handicapping. If you have people of very different skill levels who want to play each other multiplayer, right?
Hmm.
That's another case you could use those real low levels.
Yeah. And so far, I've been able to play the game reasonably on employee difficulty level. That's been
Hmm.
my standard, at least so far. So for this live play, do you think we should keep it at employee just so that we
Sure,
can get
yeah.
through
I
the
mean,
whole thing?
you'll have to talk as you play too, which makes
Yeah.
things a little trickier. So
We'll keep things on. I would like to show like a lot of things. Do you think we keep this on large? I think huge may be a little too big for this thing.
sure, yeah, that's fine. I'd recommend also 3 AI. That's what
Okay.
we kind of think of as like as the default level.
All right.
Um,
We can go down. You want to go down to medium then, and go from there.
sure, that's fine.
All right. There we go. Well, that way, we will definitely be able to finish this, I think, within the hour. And I think
Hmm.
that's one of the good things about Offworld, that even the longest plays don't usually go over an hour, just due
Right.
to how the economy basically sorts itself out. And you'll see that for those of you watching this, either recorded or live, over the course of this play. I guess one other question I have for you before we begin: what does the preset map feature do? Like, are the maps procedurally generated by
Yeah,
default?
that's what default is. The
Okay.
rest of these maps are all pre-made maps.
Hmm.
So, and especially all the ones down there, yeah, there's a long list. Those are
Yeah.
actually made by well, Martian scientist, basically. He's a guy who has worked with the project that is, photographing Mars from orbit, and he basically designed those custom maps based off of real terrain on Mars.
Cool.
And they get used in the campaign, which
Hmm.
is it works really well there. But yeah, typically playing skirmish, you're going to want to play random maps.
Okay, cool. In that case, I think we are going to start up. Here's one of the several loading screens. I do love like the robot one here. We
Yeah.
got him. They really love their rabbits, and this
Yeah,
guy's
yeah.
reading a book of world domination down there. Now, while we're loading up, you can see on the right hand side, it's giving us the details. So there's going to be a volcano, there's going to be ice, and then you have the black market powers. We'll
Mhm.
talk more about those once the game loads up, because that's one of the more interesting elements of Offworld. It's one of the few times that the player can really, I guess, directly influence things. So,
Mhm.
let me move this out of the way here. One second, I just got the little Skype thing. There we go. So here is the main screen of the game. We have here all the resources and their starting values. Now, these starting values over here, is this default each time you start a new game, Soren, or is this
Yeah, those
random?
are the
Oh,
default values. There is actually a random prices option, which I definitely would recommend to people once they've gotten used to the game because
mm-hmm,
it makes things a lot more interesting. But yeah, this is like what we see as the good default values. On random prices, some of them start basically half as much and some of them double.
mm-hmm,
And so that the thing about that is that can really change your starting, your starting choices, right? Like a very
mm-hmm.
typical thing to do at the end of the game is build steel, right?
Yeah,
But if steel is worth half as much, if it's only $30, well, you can probably skip steel and maybe focus on something else that can make you more money.
mm-hmm,
But we thought that that was actually kind of like a bit much for new players to kind of have to handle. So
okay. So there's a lot we can talk about here. Obviously, these are the stock prices. Sort of gives us an idea of who's winning, who's losing up here. Down here,
mhm.
we of course have the black market, and as I said, the black market is definitely the more hands-on part of Offworld. This is where you can directly influence other players or basically screw them.
Mhm.
And what's interesting about the game, I thought was a really smart decision on your part and the rest of Mohawk, is having these powers be randomly assigned from the pool of what's available in the game.
Right.
How did you like decide, or what was the design rationale behind having these be set each game, but be randomly given to the entire uh, group of players?
Sure. When we first shipped in early access, we actually just had 7 set ones, and it was always the same every time.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, the game was just at an earlier state at that point, and the black market was just kind of this cool feature that we liked, but we didn't necessarily. We thought that it kind of um, it just made the game less static,
Mm-hmm.
right? It also, in like a four-player game, gave ways for, sort of like the robber in Catan, right? It
Mm-hmm.
gave ways to kind of pull back the leader. Um, so it was kind of a cool element of the game. But one of the real high-level priorities for Offworld,
Mm-hmm.
design-wise, is that the game should be about adaptation.
Mm-hmm.
That people should be changing their strategy based off of the environment. And so, obviously the place to start there is random maps.
Mm-hmm.
But, as the design went on, there are other things we added to kind of increase the number of things you have to adapt to. And so, yeah, the idea came up like, well, what about the black market? Maybe that could be something else that is sort of randomized. So, if mutinies are available or not, that really changes the way the game plays out.
Yeah. And these powers also impact one of the more interesting parts of Offworld, and the fact that you choose your faction after you look at the map.
Mm-hmm.
Unlike a traditional strategy game where you pick your faction and then the map comes second. And in most strategy games, the map doesn't really change like the factions themselves. Like when you play a game of StarCraft, the map is usually symmetrical on both sides. I mean, there's a few variations, but it's not like one player is going to start without Vespane gas or anything like that.
Right.
But here, as you can see, I've been scrolling around the map while you were talking, with the resources being procedurally placed, as well as how many are currently on the map. This has a huge impact on which HQ you decide.
Yep.
I even made a small video of this on the Game Wisdom YouTube channel talking about the thought process and the strategy behind it. And I thought it was going to be a little video. It took me like 30, 40 minutes to explain it all. So, as we've been looking around the map, you can see where the major sources of the resources are. Now, on each map, I guess one quick question then. When the maps are procedurally generated, is it guaranteed to spawn all the basic resources with each new map, or even is that like up to chance?
There is a certain minimum
Mm-hmm.
number that will be on there per the number of players in the game. It's like, okay, there's 4 players, so it
Mm-hmm.
guarantees there are, maybe at least not 3 units of iron, but at least enough iron. Like there could be at least, it means there's gonna be at least say 2 highs, or there could be 6 lows, right?
Hmm.
For each of the player, just something along those lines. And it changes for each of the resources. The minimum is a lot higher for iron because it's such an important resource as it is for silicon.
Hmm.
You might get some maps where you see a whole lot less silicon. But there are also game settings where you can actually remove that restriction so that, if possible, you might get a map that, yeah, has literally no silicon. And that's something that will come up sometimes in the daily challenge.
Hmm.
It's not something that's particularly popular in multiplayer,
Yeah.
because if you get a game where there's no silicon, it's just kind of like, I don't know.
It
It's
misses a
hard for
whole.
players to adapt. It almost requires too much adaptation. But for the daily challenge, where it's like this weird thing that like, hey, today the game is very very different because it has, there's no silicon, or there's silicon everywhere. That's kind of fun.
Hmm. Now, if we look at the map, you can see that we only have, looks like, one major source of water here. But I know that the map does have a chance of spawning, like, random, like, small pockets of the other resources around.
Yeah.
But of course, we won't see that. So
Yep.
the next big decision, this is the one that can really just, like, make or break your play, is deciding on what HQ or what company to choose from.
Hmm.
So, if you wouldn't mind, Soren, could you go over, as I like mouse over them, like what each faction is and kind of like the thought process behind them?
Sure. So the expansives and the upper left there,
Hmm.
they are kind of, so what you kind of think of as the default one.
Hmm.
There's nothing really particularly weird about them. They just get a bunch of good, straightforward bonuses. The most important one being that they get an extra claim each time they upgrade their headquarters, and the fact that they need a lot less steel than other corporate
Hmm.
other headquarters. That's a pretty big one. The next one over from them is the robotic. And they're a really good starting one. They're the one I usually recommend people start with,
Hmm.
because their bonus is just so straightforward. They just don't need life support, right?
Hmm.
Don't need fuel, you don't need oxygen, don't need water, and you also don't need fuel because your ships also use power.
Hmm.
So, if you're gonna be robotic, really all you gotta do is, get some iron, make some steel, get some power down, and you've kind of covered the bases at that point. From then on, you can kind of adapt as you want to.
Yeah.
There's also the scavengers in the bottom left. The thing that makes them really different is that they use carbon instead of steel, so they can ignore iron entirely. They
Hmm.
basically only need 4 resources instead of 5, which is really nice. And then the scientists are probably the weirdest of all
Hmm.
because they put their secondary buildings. A secondary building means a building that takes an input and turns into something else. Like a steel mill turns iron into steel. They can take those secondary buildings and just put them right on top of a resource, and then it'll just produce that steel.
Hmm.
So they don't need metal mines, they don't need quarries, they don't need water pumps. So that's pretty cool too.
I guess one quick question, just for my education about the scientific HQ. If a building requires two inputs, I know some require like carbon and silicon, I think that may be
Hmm.
either glass or chemicals. Um, when you put it down on, like, let's say on the carbon, does it still need a silicon supply to finish the process?
Yeah, I'll still need a silicon, and every once in a while you might see a tile that has both carbon and silicon.
Yeah.
um, and so you can get multiple inputs if you want to, but you do need everything. And
Yeah.
you'll automatically ship that stuff out to the buildings for you.
Hmm.
So like if you put a glass furnace or glass kiln on a silicon somewhere in your scientific, you'll see your headquarters will ship oxygen out to that building for you.
And you just mentioned a few seconds ago about how you can sometimes see resources, double resources on a single tile. One
Hmm.
thing that I've seen a lot of that I haven't been able to like wrap my head around like the strategy behind it is when I see like water and aluminum or water and carbon or something like that.
Hmm.
Can you actually use that to your advantage?
If you have kind of like a weird mix of them.
Yeah.
So like if you see, I mean, first of all, it's just a better tile. Like it's better to have the extra resource on there so
Hmm.
that later in the game you can switch it around if you need to.
Hmm.
Like maybe carbon is going to crash out, so then you can get
Switch to
rid of your
water. Yeah.
carbon quarry and start making water. That's the basic thing it's useful for. And you should say for some of the other resources like iron and aluminum, if they're on the same tile, you can put a mine there and
Yeah.
it'll produce both resources.
Hmm. Now, after that discussion of the four HQs, this is probably too big of a discussion to have now, but if you wouldn't mind just like giving us like a brief talk, how did you decide on like these four HQs and their like specific powers and such? Like, what made these four stand out to you when you wanted to put them into Offworld?
So I'd say that I mean, the expansives are, that's just like, yeah,
Yeah,
they're sort of like the vanilla one. I think the game was just like them before we started adding factions. Robots kind of were just kind of like the obvious one. I think almost anyone designing this game would come up with a robotic faction. Like it seemed like it's kind of hard not to. Scavengers, originally they were more focused on espionage and black market. Like that's their
yeah,
other power is that they get black market faster and they find out about random events sooner. But it was kind of like I kind of felt like I wanted them to like they follow different rules from everyone else somehow,
hmm,
and so it just seemed like if you have this scrappy corporation, like maybe they can survive in ways other ones don't, and so like having them need a totally different resource makes them really interesting because when they're looking for a good place to found,
hmm,
that's what they would look for. And I should say that when most of these corporations were designed, this was back when you actually had to choose it before the game began.
yeah,
That's an idea that came up maybe halfway through the development process. So originally we were more like a traditional RTS,
hmm,
and so if you were going to the game as a scavenger, from the beginning you're like, okay, I'm hoping there's carbon, right?
hmm,
Um, and which could be a bit frustrating. In
yeah,
fact, that's probably one of the big reasons we let you choose after the game began.
yeah.
And the scientists used to work a lot different. That was just one of those things that just like popped in my head one day of like, oh, what if they could suck up that primary resource? Then they could again look at the map totally different from everyone else.
Yeah. And looking at this map, we definitely got a very weird map in terms of strategy. We have the primary resource for steel all the way up here, and then the primary life support water all the way down here. And
Hmm.
from what I'm looking at now, from what I've seen, first off, when there's very little water, that automatically makes the robotics a really strong position because again, they can ignore water, they ignore all the life support, they even ignore
Hmm.
fuel. So these resources right here we can pretty much ignore. Now, with everything spread out, I could also see maybe scientific, because as you said, because they don't need, they can basically do all their processing directly on the resource. We could just put a steel mill up here, put like a farm over here, and just call it a day. We could be like maybe like right around here. There
Hmm.
aren't any powers here like the storm. I think storm can just really screw the scientifics.
Yeah.
There's also the scavenger could possibly work because we have carbon, carbon, water. But if we lose the water supply, if there's not enough, then we run that risk.
Yep.
And of course, expansion, they're usually really good. There's a small amount of high quality titles from what I've seen because of the fact that their units transport 50% faster. So you
Hmm.
could put something far away over here, and it would get to you a lot quicker than the other sides.
Yep.
So from what you're looking at, what's running through your head as what faction we should go with? I'm sort of leaning towards. I think I'm sort of leaning towards robotics, but what do you think?
Well, I mean, I would do a lot more scanning before I decided.
Okay.
So, I mean, yeah, I would just start scanning. I mean, the general thing I would do is I would kind of like look for where the iron is on the map and start
Yeah.
scanning in that direction.
And see what
Um,
else is over here, kind
yeah,
of. All right.
you might discover something along the way.
Now, one other important thing for those of you watching this who haven't played Offworld, we've kept this game auto pause this entire time, but when you're playing with other players, it will be real time. So
Hmm.
it's also why it's a really good idea to play the game single player in the skirmish to learn things.
Yep.
All right.
Medium levels of iron found.
So we have some medium levels of iron.
Low levels of aluminum found. High levels of iron found.
All right. So we got a whole lot of iron.
Ooh, a geothermal vent.
Geothermal.
This will be useful.
So there is a ton of iron here. So there shouldn't be any trouble with producing steel from any faction. And you can see
Hmm.
there are some high sources. But we have a little bit of aluminum,
High levels
oh,
of aluminum found.
but there is no water, carbon.
Yeah. I mean, a very simple found would certainly be to just found robotic near that iron that's near the geotherm,
Hmm,
because those are kind of like the two really most important things for a robot. So that's
Power, and then the iron for the steel.
yeah.
And then we
There's
can go
there's a
down here for silicon.
yeah. There's a high aluminum nearby too, so you could like found on a bunch of that iron, grab the high iron, grab the high aluminum, and then throw it on the steel mill next to the iron. Like that would be a pretty straightforward start.
Yeah. And again, because all of our main resources are on this side, if we want to approach this with the other factions, we would have to do a whole lot of transporting for this water, which means, of course, additional production costs, or I'm sorry, additional power drain. Not to mention the fact that if that gets, all bought out of the major resources, we're going to be hurting for water. So it's sounding like robotics may be the best way to go. Even though there is some carbon here and over there, everything is still a little too spread out, I think, that would hurt us in the early game. And Offworld is one of those strategy games where a strong early game, or like any strategy game, a strong early game will infer on the mid and the late game.
Yeah.
So we're going to probably go robotics. So as you can see, as we put our mouse over, any resource that we land on will basically eat those resources. They'll give us the starting supply, but we won't be able to produce anything. So I'm thinking like maybe like right like
Yeah, it looks
here.
good. Any of those
That way
spots
we
would be
can just
fine.
immediately take these two or just take one. You think like right here or like right
I
there?
would take some more of the iron. I mean, there's more iron than you'll need there, so you
Yeah.
might as well just grab some of it.
I would say like maybe like right
Yep,
here
that looks
should be
great.
good. So let's found.
A robotics HQ has
So
been
they
founded.
founded. Up there deciding to do the same thing. Now look at they found a whole lot of stuff. Now that's actually a really good position for that robotics. We do have access to the geothermal, so does he. As you can see, we have most of the silicon's going to be over here. That we're
Oh,
gonna
he got a really good spot with those combo aluminum iron tiles.
Yeah, he's going to probably be our main competitor.
Yeah.
So the first thing we should probably do is snatch this up. That's the first thing we need. We're going to need electronics at some point, which means we are going to need carbon and silicon for that.
Yeah.
But we can, one of the interesting things is that some of the resources, we can basically just say screw it and just buy directly if the price remains low.
Right.
We have 2 geothermals here, which means we should be good on power.
Yep.
So for this point in the game, Soren, what's like the general strategy? What are the first things people should
Well,
prioritize?
Generally speaking, build some steel. Like what I've already, and the simplest thing to do is put down 2 steel mills. Although you see that little resources button up near the top left, like I would click that. Because that'll give you a sense of if there's anything that's particularly rare on the map. Like you see, is that only one high silicon?
Yeah.
So this would be unusual to claim at this point, but it may be worth doing just because there's not even any mediums available. So since you already have enough resources to upgrade, I would go ahead and grab that high silicon, and then just put down two steel mills,
All right.
or I guess one steel mill.
Yeah, and again, you can see that
whatever
there's
it is.
there's only 3 high water, which meant that for people looking for life support, they're going to be very limited. They're going to need to build a lot of low water, which means spending a lot of tile claims.
Yeah. You, however, since you're robotic,
Yeah.
you should not claim any of those waters.
Exactly.
You should build solar condensers if you need water. Because that allows you to put it right next to your HQ, so you could recycle those tiles if you want to use them for something else. Plus, it makes it very easy for you to put your farms and reactors next to the solar condenser, and then you get that robotic bonus.
Yeah, which is whenever they're building near anything that's producing something, or I'm sorry, when they're building, if a secondary is next to the input producer,
Yep.
they receive a adjacency bonus similar to if you're building multiples of the same building next to each other.
Yeah, which is why you should put your steel mill right next to your iron mill.
Exactly. Especially since these are low iron tiles. They're not going to really be used. And then, so we have the silicon over here. Where was it? I know we can... Oh, it won't show up, but we've already taken that. There's a few supplies of carbon. Should we take any carbon now, or do you think we should hold out for until we
I think
level
it'd be
up?
fine. Looks like there's plenty of carbon on the map.
Alright, yeah, so usually getting up to level 2 is priority. And with that additional steel, we'll be able to produce the geothermals. Now, we're probably going to ignore aluminum, at least at the start, because it is such a lower price, 20 compared to 60 for steel. So let's build a steel mill. Again, the game is kept paused. So probably right here, and we can sort of build out this way. And again, if I need more iron, I can just plop this right there. Alright, so we've upgraded. Okay, so they've been found. Now, one of the more important things about the game is you really need to watch the competitors rather than watch yourself most of the time. Because you need to know what they're building. Looks like he's going heavy steel. Now, things are getting built. We have the first metal mine.
A robotics HQ has been upgraded.
Yep. You have so much more flexibility. You can really just focus on trying to get something going that's going to make money.
Yeah.
Which could be power. It might not be a bad idea to get a geotherm going up pretty quickly. I would put down a second steel mill, which will help you get that geotherm going up faster.
Yeah. So, right there. And again, we don't need to worry about food, water, oxygen, or fuel, while Joji's the only one who went expansive. So,
An expansive HQ has been upgraded.
yeah, it looks like he's going for heavy steel. And our colony here will also determine sort of how the prices are going to evolve over time, too, right?
Yep, that's right. Yeah, you can mouse over the middle of the colony, and it'll tell you what it's producing basically, or what it's consuming.
Yeah, so to pause it again quickly, as you can see, it is going to be going heavy into glass, which means that glass prices are going to be higher naturally over the course of the play. So that's another thing to keep in mind. Since we use electronics instead of glass, that's not going to really impact us as much. But Joji over here is going to be in a little bit more trouble because of that. He won't be able to buy glass as easily. And that'll also mean that'll be something we can try and screw him out of with these black market powers as the game goes on. So the first thing we should probably do is get this geothermal once we have enough steel. But
you can claim right now if you want to.
oh yeah, that's right. We can just hit C, use one of our claims, so that way no one can steal that from us if they decide to.
Yeah. You're still sitting on some claims, so if I were you, I'd go ahead and just claim on the nearest high aluminum you can, because you know at some point you're going to want aluminum. So
yeah, so we can just grab that. And the aluminum is also going to be used for the geothermal. Now, of course, one of the interesting things about the game is that I can buy things just with straight cash, or if I have the resources, that will sort of save us on costs. So we have some debt going. Debt is one of those things that it doesn't look as bad, but if it gets too big, it's usually too late to correct the course. Once you get to D stock prices and you can't use the black market, you're usually going to be in big trouble.
Yeah.
All right, let's switch back over here so we can actually see what we're producing. So we're not having any iron coming in, but we are producing a whole lot of steel. And again, thanks to this adjacency bonus, we have silicon. So this is getting cheaper and cheaper. I'll probably sell some of this just to afford the geothermal.
Yeah. I'm going to grab some carbon. The price of carbon has spiked up quite a bit for some reason.
Let's see. There's only 2 supplies of high carbon left on the map. Should we take one of those, you think?
Yeah, go for it.
Now, of course, that's going to eat into our power like anything else, but I'm going to put down this geothermal now. While it may not completely fix the price, it's going to cut that down, or cut how much we're going to be using. And we have one more now. There's, of course, these advanced buildings. The Pan Lab lets us get special upgrades, and the Optimization Center that lets us enhance the production. So now here's the other interesting part of the game. We have these auctions that pop up, these random events. So I think since we're over 20,000 in debt right now, I think I'm going to ignore it and keep my bond rating high. Plus, since they are bidding this up and up and up.
Yeah, I like to bid on auctions, but the robot sometimes it's a good idea to keep your debt low so you can actually make money off of power if you want. If you have an extra claim, you may even want to get into a second geotherm. If no one else is building power, then you could really benefit from that. I can't really tell. You can hit tab, is lets you cycle through everyone's HQ. It's a good way to keep track of what they're doing.
Ah, cool. So he definitely has some power. There's
An
me.
expansive HQ has been upgraded.
He's definitely going heavy into steel. It may be time to... Okay, that should almost be done. There it is. Oh! And the second goes up, they hit us with a
Oh,
EMP.
EMP? Yeah.
But you can see the price of glass and chemicals going incredibly high. It may be time. Do you think it's time to upgrade and start doing some aggressive?
Not until you use all your claims. I would grab another geotherm.
All right.
That's the best way. That's sort of the best way to protect yourself. Is if you got 2 geotherms, it's gonna be hard for them to hit them both.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, generally speaking, I wouldn't upgrade until you need another claim, because that's really the primary reason to upgrade.
Yeah. Okay.
I'm gonna sell some of your carbon. The price is not bad.
And we can now screw with some of these players using the black market.
Mhm.
Joji here. Oh, looks like Frank just got hit. Now Joji has has glass going. I could steal it, but then I would have to supply O2. which I
Yeah,
don't.
stealing secondary buildings is difficult unless you have teleportation.
Mm-hmm.
If you
Well,
want to steal something, steal someone's power, I would say.
Yeah. Did anyone build a geothermal? Yes, he did. Let's see if we can grab it. Oh, we took it over, so now he's giving us power for the next minute or so. And once these are finished, this will quickly fix our power problem.
Yeah. You should be able to. Actually, now I would go ahead and upgrade.
Yeah.
And get into probably either glass or electronics, one or the other.
Mm-hmm.
A robotics HQ.
If you want to, you could create a chain of you put down a solar condenser, and then you put down a reactor, and then you put down a glass furnace, where each of those buildings are boosting the next one.
Mm-hmm.
Like in order. That might not be a bad idea. You could even do it to connect yourself to that geotherm to set you up for superindustrial later in the game.
Yeah. Alright, let's try that. Oh, wait. We wanted to... I need glass, which means I need to... Silicon just went really high up.
New building is
Oh,
Yeah, you should sell all your silicon, drive that price down.
yeah. Now this could actually be something worth bidding on, a patent lab. Especially...
Yeah, it would be. I would go for the patent lab.
We do have a lot of debt right now, but if we can keep this out of their hands, we can actually use this for some upgrades. Oh, you think it's worth over 32,000 though?
No
Yeah.
one's pushing it. I don't know.
Yeah, I didn't want to let him grab it. Plus, maybe I can mutiny it too. Alright, so we'll build this. This will get us the water. And then from water, we can produce this, which will give us the bonus. And then lastly, we'll produce the glass kiln, which will get a double bonus because it's next to both power that it needs
Oh
and the
yeah,
electrolysis reactor, which it needs. And
Oh,
this will
yeah.
also connect that.
works out really well actually.
black market is online.
Alright. Yeah, we have a lot of silicon. And maybe we can... Now, usually these 2 big resources, glass... Well, actually 3. We have chemicals, glass, electronics. Do you think we should build chemicals, or do you think we should just leave that alone for right now? Because you really can't build everything in this game.
No, you have to focus on some stuff. I mean, what I would do when you upgrade, at that point I would put down a second reactor, I would double exactly what you did: double solar condenser, double reactor, double glass furnace,
Yeah.
and maybe one more steel mill if you get an extra claim.
Let me see.
Because that iron price is so low, those steel mills must be making you a ton of money.
Yeah. Now, Joji here's an idea that I've been thinking. Oh. Joji has 2 patent labs, or Frank does. I think I'm going to take one and see if we can make use of it. So we have this. So now we have access to all these lovely upgrades, and he's basically fitting the bill for us. And as you can see, they come in a lot of different ways. So we have financial instruments. This would be good if everyone was in debt, basically. He already took superconductor.
Mm-hmm.
And since we're not using... I'm sorry, since we're not building a lot of water, cold fusion would probably not be good for us. Carbon scrubbing could be. Slant drilling, that's the interesting one. That basically allows a mine to get the resources from everything around it, right?
Right.
I really like teleportation. I think that could work out well on this map.
You've got some stuff from ways away, so I think teleportation's good, yeah.
And again, since he's paying for this in terms of the patent lab, I might as well grab it.
Yeah.
So we are basically good with power for right now. Once teleportation is done, we will no longer need power for transport.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, he is buying shares out himself to protect him.
Yeah.
Silicon is still really high up.
Are you going to be able to get the teleportation before the patent lab goes back?
I think...
Oh, everyone is a patent lab? Wow.
I think it's going to be close. I think it's going to be like right at the second.
Yeah.
So we can sell this glass since I'm not using glass.
Yeah.
And we're now...
You want to turn auto supply on for your reactor?
Yeah, I think I did. There we go.
The black market is on.
Yeah, I'm kind of watching this. The Twitch's resolution's coming through much better than Skype, so
Alright.
I'm kind of 10 seconds behind.
Alright, now we can also try and screw these guys out. Now the price of these keeps going up and up and up. Now power is now so low it's not really mattering, but we do need more water because of the dust storm effect. Up here's the patent lab again. There are a lot of patent labs this game, I'm surprised.
Yeah.
But the price of steel... do I want this? Not for 20,000, I think, or 24,000. Jeez, they're really going high.
Yep.
Let's sell this glass, because again, we are not using glass. Do you think it would be good to build electronics at some point?
It'd be good to build electronics. Well, I mean, mouse over the building. Tell me what the net revenue is.
It looks like it's at 190. Net revenue $33.
So that's pretty good. You can compare it with glass to see if you should get into more glass.
Yeah, glass is at 29 right now.
Okay, then I would go into glass because you'll get the adjacency bonuses. Whereas with electronics, it's like you're going to a whole new resource.
Alright, so we'll build this. And build another solar condenser like right here. Get a 50% bonus. And oxygen is also getting really high up in price too.
Yeah.
I really hope this finishes in time. Oh, it finished. Thank you. Whew. I was actually worried there. So now that teleportation is done, everything is now instantaneous. We no longer need to spend power there.
Yep.
Now we can really start messing with this. He's going a lot into water. So maybe I should slow him. Or actually we could just do an EMP. Oop. And let's shut Joji down for a few minutes. Now
it's
this
kind of odd. He's only level 3, but he's got all his own stock.
yeah. And his rating is down to C too, which means he's gonna be really hurting soon. Joji's something gonna probably be our target to take over too, because his stock is so low.
Yeah, you still got 2 claims left, so I would do something with them.
Yeah.
Probably another reactor. If you want to, you could put a chem lab next to 2 of the reactors. That might not be bad. Because you got all that carbon, you might as well start doing something with it.
Yeah. Let's see. I'll take care of that. And again, we can sell the chemicals, or we could try and take someone. Oh, no one's got an optimization.
Yeah, that'd probably be a good thing.
And again, the glass price continues to go up and up.
Mm-hmm.
Now, someone used pirates, but we don't need to worry about pirates anymore. Oh, hi, this corner. Thanks for joining.
Yep. You're actually seeing a ton of money right now. If I were you, I would sell all your fuel, all your glass, and upgrade to level 5.
Yeah. There you go. And our debt is also getting manageable, too.
Mm-hmm.
And again, steel is so... I am surprised we still have a good price on silicon. There you go.
All right, now your goal is definitely the off-world market.
Yeah,
So,
definitely. We have the glass. We definitely have the glass.
For auction.
So I would put down another chem lab, and then maybe a couple electronics factories. You could put the electronics factories on the other side of the geotherm. Might be a good place to put them to give them a bonus.
Mm-hmm.
Sold.
We still have four claims left.
Is this a tile next to the headquarters, the colony? Oh, it's already over. Yeah.
Yeah, I think it was.
Yeah. Because you could have put an optimization center there. That would be
Okay.
nicely better.
So Joji here, he is definitely improving things. Let's keep him down again. You can be really mean in this game to some players. Right. There we go. Let's shut him down for a little bit.
Yeah.
Power, we are more than well put there. We don't need to worry about that. Looks like our silicon is starting to run out, but silicon prices are pretty low compared to iron.
Mm-hmm.
Looks like someone's trying to buy us out. Maybe time to buy some of our claims, or buy some of our stock for protection.
You have some extra claims, though. You should take advantage of them. I'd put down another chem lab and another electronics factory.
Alright. This is basically the big three we're protecting, or we're getting.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe time to buy some of our stuff out.
Yeah. Now, for something like oxygen, which looks like it's just going to be a nice moneymaker for you, I would actually auto sell that. If you hit Control Shift and click on the minus button, it'll just automatically sell it. Like the rest of the game for you.
Now we need to buy one more to protect ourselves.
Yeah,
there.
that's right. Yeah, we will definitely want to get to 5 shares.
There we go. So now we are safe. The only way someone will be able to buy us out is if they'll have to completely buy all.
Now we get down
this.
one more solar condenser.
You mean for the water? Nope. You still there? Soren, did we lose you? Uh-oh. I think we lost Soren, or we're going to try and get him back. Hopefully he'll get back on. Oh, we got an event. While waiting for Soren to come back. Somebody has built an off-world. I want to take a chance and see if we can screw him. Oh wait, I got a message from Soren.
Begin.
Oh, you there? Oh, can you hear me, Soren?
1 second. Alright, yeah, my internet is dropped. I called you on my phone.
Okay.
I can call you back as soon as it's coming. You assume you're on your way to either an off-world or optimization center. Both of those seem like good choices.
Yeah. There's now carbon scrubbing available. I don't think we could use it, maybe?
You had like a ton of carbon, right?
Yeah, we are not making any more now.
Yeah.
But silicon is now going up and up.
Mm-hmm.
Alright, so I think I'll just let that go. We have enough glass. I should probably just sell what we don't need and try to get what we need for the... Trying to get the off-world. There we go. I can now produce the off-world. Place it like right here for the bonus. I think I'm going to goon squad that for protection.
Okay. I think I'm back on. Although I can watch it. I can watch the Twitch. It's probably just as easy.
Alright. Once a black mark opens, I'm going to get the goon squad to kind of protect it. Joji is continuing to be in bad shape. But my off-world is now coming along.
Mm-hmm.
Pirate. I hate those filthy bandits.
Have you thought of Mutiny, that Offworld that Rennie has?
Oh yes, where is it? Yeah, it has a worker strike right now, which is slowing it down. Alright, so the first thing I want to do is build the Goon Squad. I'm going to protect my off-world market.
Yep.
An expansive HQ has been upgraded.
Alright. And I think we're going to try and take this.
We're not
Up.
surprised, just
Well, if he tries it on me, we should be good.
Yeah. You know you want that Goon Squad anyway, so.
Fuel is good. Oxygen is just really high right now. We're not really using it. Our debt is now under control. We don't need glass anymore.
They got your Mutiny? No, that happens.
Yeah, but we're good there.
Yeah.
There we go. Off-world is done. So it looks like fuel is going to be the big one. 51,000 for fuel.
Mm-hmm.
And we can do shift click to keep it going permanently.
Mm-hmm. Yep. That would definitely be a good idea. We can make a lot of money from that.
Alright. Keep that going automatically, because silicon is now starting to match itself. Price of steel. Oh, someone's trying to buy me out.
the black market is online.
But it will probably be time. I wonder if we can try additional buy of him.
Pirates.
Yeah.
Those
I'd buy
bandits.
just go for it. Don't worry about yourself, just go to buy Frank Dawson instead. Because once you buy him out, you'll get all the stock that he owns.
Yeah.
Although I feel like you may want to get a second Offworld up.
Disappointed in
Yeah. Definitely.
And keep Mutiny, yeah, exactly.
Oh, and then I defended that.
Good. But definitely keep your Offworld's Goon Squad. They should always have a Goon Squad on them.
Mm-hmm.
Get all the money.
There we go. We only have circuit overload. We do need... I need at least 100 glass. There we go. Now I can buy the second off-world. I might as well place it for the adjacency bonus, which would be like right... I'm gonna place it over here just in case they try to screw me with a longer... with an area effect.
A bigger one, yeah.
Yeah.
That's a good idea.
So,
We'll need another Goon Squad, though. I have no more claims, so
Yep.
we are now officially in the end game.
Yep. And there's no claims in the market, so... Yep. Why don't you just control shift down? So that you're at the point of the game where you kind of want to start driving those prices down before everyone else does.
Alright. And we can just keep hurting him. If we can take Frank out, it's going to really give us an advantage.
Yeah.
It's going to be very expensive, though, but we are #1 right now.
the black market is online.
Yeah, if you can get all 5 of those open shares of stock, that puts you in a really good position to buy them out.
Yeah.
You have a target then, basically. You know, you're going to need about $400,000.
Mm-hmm.
And it's a little risky, but you can go for kind of the strategy of, like, purposely not buying your own stock, letting Frank buy your stock.
Mm-hmm.
Because as long as you buy him before he buys you, then he's actually kind of doing you a favor.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, you got one of his shares. Well, you'll have to buy that one for double price then.
Ah. So what I'm going to do first, let's get that going. I mutinied the optimization center, so I'm going to use that to basically get all our stuff going instead of needing him.
Mm-hmm.
There we go. Oh, they did hit me with a double there. But we are in a good position that way.
Yeah.
Or-
Do you have your own optimization center?
No, I don't.
Okay, because you're not going to be able to research all those techs.
I hate
Yeah.
those filthy bandits.
You may want to get them back for the chemicals. Well, I guess chemicals are cheap, so you could just meet, you know.
Yeah, let's drop that out.
I would auto sell glass and electronics right now,
Yeah.
so you just want the money.
Look at that, it's an insane price, too. Okay, the black market is almost done. He's trying to buy me. It's gonna be close.
Offworld shipment
There we
launched.
go.
Look at
So
all
it'll be
the
92,000 to buy that last one.
Mhm.
But water is now really good. We could probably sell that too. Oh, now it's starting to go down. Alright, so now we need 500,000 to finish him off.
money.
Oh, he didn't stop it in time. That's good for me.
If Media's only 14,000, I would go for another, steal someone's off-world again. Ideally his.
Yeah. There we go, we got it. So we might as well use that. Try to get a triple. Looks like steel is going really high up too.
Yep.
And glass just continues to go up and up and up, which is making us more and more money.
Yep. You might want to delete one of your... Water's only $1, so you may want to delete one of your solar condensers and put down an optimization center.
Yeah.
Offworld
Then you can start
shipment
taking
launched.
up all that glass.
All the money.
You're still seeing out some glass. Sell the glass that you have. Actually, just go ahead and control shift down.
Yeah, I think I have it already. Yeah, I think it's all selling right now. Can I do it more?
Well, you still actually... You see, if you look, you see there's a little white number that
Mhm.
tells you like what you actually have. You
Yeah.
still have in your stockpile.
Okay. So should I sell more then?
Yeah. Sell what you have in your stockpile. Like at this point, you just want all the cash you can have.
Okay. There we go. So the optimization center is going up. Since we have tons of chemicals coming in, we can easily use that.
Shipment is
There we go.
Look at all the money.
Alright, so we must be almost halfway there.
Yep. We're getting there. Probably a few more off-worlds will do it. And we'll be able to easily afford that once his optimization center comes up.
Mm-hmm.
Everything
so
else... Yep.
You need the optimization center kind of for the fuel upgrades, so that you actually produce enough fuel to ship off world.
There we go. So now that will finish up. Surplus of steel. I didn't want to sell some of my steel now just to get that going. We are getting there where his stock continues to grow, but with a few more of these off-worlds, we should be sitting pretty. And once we've taken him over, we will basically be able to win. We'll be in a really good position to win this game.
Yeah, they should be able to mop it up at that point.
Look at all the money.
I mean, he's having a good game, but fortunately he only has one off-world right now. I assume you mutinied his off-world away.
Yeah, I just mutinied the other one too.
Yeah, okay.
And looks like oxygen is now starting to go up too. But yeah, we are really close. We're just under 100,000 away from being able to buy him out. So this is getting to the point where we're going to be hitting that point of becoming unstoppable. Up, looks like Joji was bought out, so he is out of the game. So we can take Frank. That should put us in a really good position to win things. We'll probably sell some of our chemicals. Just trying to get to that magic number. There we go. Boom. So Frank is now out of the picture.
Oh, there was a buyout.
Yeah, Joji was taken out, but now we own Frank.
Yep.
So at this point, we are basically going to be winning this game at this point, since we own technically the big guy here.
Yeah, and Frank will make you a lot of money once his off-worlds come back online.
So while things are finishing out, we're just basically buying our time for the money to come in. One question I have for you, Soren, is do you see yourself continuing to expand on Offworld in the coming weeks or months, more content coming?
I'm still working on Offworld right now for sure. So we still have some stuff we'd like to do, things we'd like to improve with it. we have some ideas planned for updates. But beyond that, a lot just depends on how people respond to the game and what they ask for and what they'd like. So far it's been doing well. People seem to like it a lot, and it's been selling well. So yeah, I think we're pretty hopeful for the future for Offworld.
Awesome. I'm going to have my review up on the game later today. And I'm definitely enjoying it, but yeah, I'm really hoping that you guys get to expand this and explore it. Because there's a lot of good stuff here that I would like to see, like, more options. Like, basically more ways to change. Like, if I have to say there's one complaint of the game right now, is that the mid to late games tend to, like, devolve into just this focus of the off-world. Because you basically need it if you want to have any chance of winning. So it sort of pigeonholes the end. So I would love to see, like, more ways to either get around it or more ways just to mix things up when we're at this point where we're just, biding our time waiting for money to come in.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I would. It's interesting to see. I mean, offloads are certainly important. I mean, they'll always be, a really important element of the game. For one important reason, which is that it's hard to figure out a way to make the game actually end if it's just purely based off of like who made the most money, because you kind of need this thing where near the end where you're making money significantly faster than you were in the early game. Because without the off-road market, you almost have this risk of like the stock prices, they go up so quickly that it's almost hard to make enough money to buy someone out, if that makes sense. So they serve a definite purpose, but it's interesting to watch in competitive play that people win a number of games without building off-worlds. Usually they're taking someone out early, but also there's people who really make really good use of the hacker, right? So there's definitely ways people win with the off-world, but I think for sure when you're playing against the AI and not necessarily at the top levels, I mean, if you can work your way to an off-world, I mean, you'll be able to win the game pretty regularly.
Yeah. Now, we didn't build the hacker array during this play, so for people watching this who didn't see that, what does the hacker array do in Offworld?
It lets you during the game. There's all these events that pop up, like oxygen shortage, which drives the price up, or fuel surplus, which drives the price down, and those are basically picked randomly behind the scenes, and the hacker array basically lets you trigger those on purpose. So you can basically create a steel shortage. And that can be really valuable if you notice that you're the only person in the game who's producing a certain resource. So like if you're the only person in the game who happens to be making electronics, or let's say you somehow got a monopoly on aluminum or something, you could basically create a hacker array and just start driving up the price of that resource. And you can make a ton of money that way. And then also, really slow everyone else down as well.
Yeah. Now, one question for you regarding like the strategy, especially for people watching this who are trying to learn the game. When you say that you notice that you're the only guy building steel, you're the only one with a monopoly, is there an easy way to see that in game, or do you just have to scan the other HQs and make sure like no one else has a steel mill or no one else has electronics?
That's why tab is a really important key. Hit tab, and then basically it cycles through everyone's HQs. We went back and forth on we have that end game screen, and like theoretically we could just show that during the game, but it's like it's a tough question. Like we don't want people to be playing the game from like this separate spreadsheet, right? So we've done a lot to like when you when you hit tab, it doesn't just cycle through the HQs; it selects them. So you'll see lines connecting them to like the buildings that are off of your current view. So even if you have someone connected, you'd see a bunch of blue lines, and you're like, oh, he's also creating a bunch of water, right? Or you'd see those jagged yellow lines. You're like, oh, he also has a bunch of power. So generally speaking, that's like a pretty good way to show that stuff.
Yeah. And if you look at the UI here of how everything was bought and sold, 1 second. Just gotta gotta move a little Skype icon out of the way. You can see that we really took over with glass production. We were up to 552,000 compared to just 1,900. Yeah.
Yep.
And we were just kicking a lot of ass there. And again, that's one of the things that's interesting about the game is that glass was so high this time. Again, because the colony was using it more. But like, let's say we start a second game. We're not going to do that obviously now. But if we start a second game, maybe this time steel could be through the roof and glass could be kept manageable.
Yep, it's always good to check the colony at the beginning of the game.
Definitely.
To see what they're into, because they tend to. There's basically 4 different types of colonies. One is really into power, one is into chemicals, one's into glass, and one's electronics. And that'll definitely change the way the game feels.
And again, by looking at that near those water supplies, in order to have enough water coming, because we would also need that for food. And that life support would probably just kill us if we were trying to, build everywhere on the map.
Yep.
All right. I think with that, we've gone over the hour. I know you have to get going in the next few minutes. It's been great hanging out with you, Soren. I would love to do that glass we were producing. We were just selling it directly to them, essentially.
Yep.
And making a huge amount of money. And that was basically compensating for the fact that we didn't have loads and loads of electronics.
Yep, absolutely.
The other advantage, I would say, just for people watching in terms of the thought process, because we went for glass, we also built the solar condensers, and that sort of fixed our, minimum supply of water. Now, if we were building like another HQ, we were expansive, scientific, the other, we would have to have built near those water supplies in order to have enough water coming, because we would also need that for food. And that life support would probably just kill us if we were trying to, build everywhere on the map.
Yep.
All right. I think with that, we've gone over the hour. I know you have to get going in the next few minutes. It's been great hanging out with you, Soren. I would love to do this again with you. Maybe at some point we could try an actual multiplayer game, so you can kick my ass instead of just giving us the play-by-play.
Sure. Yeah. Maybe sometime we can try that, or teams maybe.
Yeah, that would be a lot safer. We're going to wrap things up for this live play. Soren, if you wouldn't mind just hanging on Skype for 1 minute, I just have a few off stream questions to ask you. Other than that, we're going to end things here. I would just like to say again, Soren, thanks so much for coming on to the live stream. It's been great having you on. And it was also really great getting some of your expert advice on learning the game and some of the strategies, because it can be a little daunting for new players to learn Offworld. Again, because it's so adaptable, you can't just have a straight up strategy that works every time, or a straight up way of teaching someone how the game works.
Yep. Yeah. I mean, that was our high level goal with the game, is that it should feel different every time you play it.
I will say that the tutorial is also really well designed, just in terms of walking you through not just learning the game, but in the order that you would actually learn it. And I think that's a really understated element of a good tutorial.
Yep. Yeah. We put a lot of effort into that tutorial, and I think it really paid off.
Awesome. All right. So, for those of you enjoying this either live or on YouTube, we're going to end things here. Thanks so much for tuning in. Be sure to subscribe on Twitch and Twitter under GW Blaster to get the latest updates when content goes live. As I was telling Soren earlier in this cast, by the time you're watching this, my review of Offworld should be up on GameWisdom.com or within the next few minutes. Check out Game-Wisdom.com, where I examine the art and science of games. Be sure, of course, if you're watching this live, go to the YouTube channel to check out the Let's Plays, video supplements, and more there. And last but not least, you can find me on Patreon under Game Wisdom, and any donations would be greatly appreciated in order to allow me to keep putting out great content and keeping the site ad-free. So, thanks again for watching. Soren, do you have any final thoughts or anything you would like to end the cast saying?
No. I mean, it's good. I'm glad we were able to play through a full game.
Awesome. Alright, so thanks again for watching, and again, hopefully we can do this again real soon. Take care, everybody.
Thanks.
All right.